Step number 1. I got me a 10-inch pot. That is going to be the right size for this plant, the purple passion plant, because I could put it in a larger pot, but I really don't have the room right now. So I'm going to put it in this. It'll give it plenty of time to grow, and it also gives me plenty of time to see what other plants aren't going to make it in the voodoo room and which ones are. And let's see, I'm going to make sure that there's enough soil in there so that when I put this in here, about maybe an inch worth of stem is going to get buried. This is good for the plant because then it can grow some roots from the buried stem, and more roots mean a better foundation for the plant. I've gone around and I've taken snippers to save time. I've taken snippers and I've snipped off the lowest leaves off this plant so that you can see the actual stem. See? All covered with dirt, but still you can see the stem. And anything buried in the way of leaves is going to rot. So you want to make sure you take off the leaves. It's in there. Now, next step, this is very, very simple. Next step, we place some soil in there, nice and even all the way around. And you don't want to just cram the soil in there. Don't ever force soil in or push it down really hard. And I've mentioned this in previous episodes, that when you press the soil down, don't press it in any harder than you would press your finger up against your closed eyelid. Because if it's going to hurt your eye, it's going to hurt the roots. That's my rule of thumb. All right, now we have soil in there, but remember we have some stems in the middle that we've trimmed the leaves off of. So this is going to look a little bit ugly at first, but it's going to look better once we rinse off the dirt. So I'm going to spread these stems aside. It's hard to do this while a camera is on because I want to make sure that you can see this as well. A little bit of soil in there. And not to worry, you know, this is eventually going to rinse off and wear off at first. It may look a little bit bad, but they do adjust. Now I just gently push the stems out just a little bit to spread this plant out, because anything that's going to be shaded is going to be a little bit more muted in color and growth pattern. So I kind of push them apart just a little. You got to be gentle with these things. Remember, they can snap. Press the soil down just a little bit. Add some more. And this is not an instant process. This is what I was talking about in my last episode, the me time. You know, I just take my time. I don't rush. I got nothing else to do. This is my hobby. This is what brings me happiness, so it's not something that I want to rush through, you know? One thing I gotta say for the purple passion plants, with all that fuzz, they do hold on to the dirt. You can blow it off, or you can rinse it off with water. Water isn't going to hurt it. There. Done deal. Not so bad. Let's give it a good soaking. Now I pour a little bit of water on the leaves that got dirt on them. That way it's just mainly a cosmetic thing. It really doesn't matter if you have dirt on your leaves, but hey, you're buying this plant for the color. And you don't want the color of dirt, otherwise you would have just bought a pot of dirt. And what's really nice about this soil that I keep in my container is that it's always slightly moist. And as you know, if you've grown plants before, moist soil absorbs water a lot faster than that bone dry soil. As far as how much water, I really can't tell you. What I like to do is I like to take off the drip trays generally, and I'm going to leave the drip tray on because I can actually hear the water hitting the drip tray. There's a drip tray built onto this. But what you want to do is you want to put in enough water nice and slow all the way around, nice and evenly, not just in the center, not just on the sides, all the way around until it starts dripping out the bottom. And then you stop. And then you just let it drip. And you can put these outside, or you can put them in your tub. I prefer to put them in the tub because that way they never have to go outside and risk getting bugs. I put them in my tub, let them drip out all the water for a nice couple hours, toss the drip tray on, and you are good for a long time. This soil is going to stay moist for a long time, and that way you know it's moist all the way down. It's going to be perfect start for the perfect plant. All done. Now the pothos, that's an animal of a different color. What I'm going to do with the pothos is put it into a 12-inch pot. And you can put these in hanging pots, the ones that are wider and not quite so deep, because pothos puts out an extensive root system, but the root system, from my experience, does not go super deep. It goes super wide, but not super deep. Now what I'm going to do with the pothos to give it the best start possible is I'm only going to put in a little bit of soil. This is a 12-inch wide pot, and I'm putting in this much soil in here. I'm leaving the rest without soil, and here's the reason. Take out the tag, set it aside, take the plant out. Come on, get out. This thing actually feels like it's a little bit root bound. I don't blame you. Oh yeah. See, pothos have a nice, strong root system. That's one thing you'll never accuse your plants of not having, is a good, solid root system. They get root bound really, really fast. Now, as I mentioned in a previous episode, pothos love to put down roots in every section that's buried. Now, those of you who are vegetable gardeners, you can relate to this. It's just like a tomato. What we're going to do with this is, first of all, this leaf here is going to be buried, so no need for that. Whoops. Sorry, rascal. I dropped this and he goes running for his life. Okay, this is going to be gone. Now, when I start the plants, generally it just doesn't look that pretty. And I understand that. It's not going to look pretty, but I'm going for the long run. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to remove all of this center, I call it crap, because I think what it is it's a plant that was growing sideways, and these are just leaves. These aren't going to be stems at all. Get rid of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to place it down way low in the pot. The reason for this is as this grows, each section, like I mentioned, is going to put down roots. So if we start it way down here, we do it like the tomato. We add soil all the way up to here. Everything down here is going to put down roots like you would not believe. So we have the big honking root structure down here. All of these are going to put down roots. What that's going to do is super boost this plant, and it's going to look just like a few leaves at first. Give it a couple months, and then eventually you're going to see some really crazy stuff going on. It's going to go nuts as those roots get sent down, because they're going out to the side. Those roots are going to go straight down and fill this whole side up, and it's going to give each one of these growing tips a really, really good start and fill this pot up beautifully, as opposed to putting it way the heck up here, and then you have just these roots working for you. Another nice benefit of burying the pothos deep is that you can take the extra stems, like this one over here, move it on over to the right, bury it. Don't ever bury the growing tip. That's not a good idea. But everything else can be buried. That'll be just fine. You can push that over to the right. This other one over here, whoops, take this leaf off. Don't need it. Less leaves equal less stress for the plant when it's going through a transplant. Don't worry, it'll definitely grow more leaves. Okay, this other long stem, we're going to push that off a little bit to the left and forward. Now, I can't give you concrete rules for every single plant because they all grow differently. So you just have to kind of find your way. But these are general guidelines that'll help you along the way. Okay, now these ones are kind of close together. It would be nice if they were longer so I could spread them out towards the sides, because these plants always seem to cluster towards the center. So the more you can get them off to the sides, the better, because they'll eventually grow towards the center. This will fill in. All right, that's the best I can do. Put in some more soil. This is perfect. You're seeing this and thinking, Ray, you didn't fill it all the way up with soil. No, I did not, because as these grow up, we're going to fill the soil up even more, and it's going to put down even more roots. So it's going to get better as it goes. It just keeps getting better as this plant grows into this pot. That's how I start my pothos. And let me tell you something, I've always had great luck growing the pothos. It's because you can bury them deep, and they grow a lot of roots along the stems, and you can put them in a deeper pot than you normally would have. See, I'm not going to put this in a hanging pot because I don't like to have hanging plants. I used to a long time ago. I really don't like to anymore because then I have to take them down to water them, pain in the butt. I like to keep them on a shelf or on the floor. Let's see. Yep, that feels about right. Second plant down. Now, I want to make it clear, you don't ever mistake a pothos for the philodendron because they're totally different in the way that we treat them when we transplant them. I could bury the stems of the philodendron, but I really don't feel the need because we're not trying to get this big honking Arnold Schwarzenegger steroid-induced looking plant to come out. We like the delicate look. We just want this to trail down. So what I'm going to do, start it in the smaller pot because they tend to get root bound a lot slower because they're not as aggressive. I'm going to bury it right up to the top, not take any leaves out or anything, and just let it grow from there. The root structure, let's pop this tag out. Take a look at the roots. Come on, this is one thick plant. As you can see, the roots are not as crazy as the pothos. And that's what I want to make clear, is that even though they look similar, they're not similar in the way that they grow, in the way that they need to be treated and transplanted. This one tends to have that weird, I don't know, strange curly looking look to the stems, and that's okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these are separated before I put it in there, because you don't want them all tangled up. And like the pothos, you want to make sure they kind of go off to the side and everything, because trust me, they're going to be putting out all kinds of new stuff in the center. So for right now, we got them kind of spread out. We're going to put them in the soil, bury it right to the top, and that's all we're going to do. Now with the dumb cane, it definitely has an aggressive root structure. I'm anticipating it's going to be full of roots down here. Let's see if I'm right. Yep. See, now the pothos had roots all over the place, mainly on the top and sides, whereas the Dieffenbachia, it loves to send its roots way down there. So you're going to want to have a deeper pot. This is a 10-inch pot. You don't have to plant it any deeper than the original soil. Fill it up with soil, put this right to the top. You're all set to go. Very simple to transplant. The peace lily definitely has a decent root system. Let's pop this baby out of here and take a look at it. Squeeze, pull. It pretty much speaks for itself. That is a crazy root system. Now, herein lies the craziness. Some folks go with the way of thinking that you're supposed to slice, 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 and slice and pull these apart. I've never subscribed to that method or of actually manipulating the roots. I know that you can do that, and if you feel confident enough and experienced enough to pull some of these roots apart, that's fine. But I really don't see that it's necessary. With this, you can pull them apart into chunks, slice them in half, take half into one pot, half into the other. With me, all I'm going to do is bury this right to the top and bury it in soil. And even though these are all clustered around and you might think, hey, they're just going to grow in circles. Actually, the only reason they grow in circles is because they can only grow in circles. Once these are planted, new roots will actually come out and they're going to go all over the place. Not to worry, everything's going to be fine. The world's not going to end.
Okay, bye.